a little longer than the maximum distance on the track. They run 5 laps of the course, and the going by now is certain to be very heavy indeed. Indeed, I would think the golfers of Stavanger won't like the look of their beloved course tomorrow morning. But certainly we do anticipate here one of the finest cross-country races we've ever seen, because in amongst the field of around 230 men who go to the line are the great John Ngugi of Kenya, the man who has won 3 successive individual World Championship medals in this event already, a quite unprecedented achievement. 47 different nations represented, some of the greatest cross-country runners of this, or indeed any other era. Ngugi I've already mentioned. Great Britain have high hopes here, particularly of Tim Hutchings, who's been in outstanding form. Tim Hutchings, silver medalist in the world event back in 1984. The Kenyans, the Ethiopians, very, very strong. Always a wonderful sight, the start of this, the pinnacle of any cross-country season. Each team held in its particular pen, with the stewards just making sure that the athletes stand behind the line. 9 runners for each nation. There's the Kenyans checking their watches. The first 6 men home will score. Andrew Masai, number 138, just one of half a dozen Kenyans who are likely to be up there in the first 20 come the end of the race. There's the British contingent. Eamon Martin, number 75. A former British national cross-country champion, as indeed is number 74, David Lewis, alongside him. Away they go then. The all-red colours of Kenya certain to be prominent. Their record in this event quite phenomenal. 3 successive team victories and those 3 successive individual gold medals for the remarkable John Ngugi. Watch out for the green vests of Ethiopia, the nation which was so dominant before the Kenyans started to take the event seriously. Ethiopia enjoyed 5 successive team victories between 1981 and 1985, and already packing well there at the head of the field. Great Britain, in their familiar all-white, have the strongest team they fielded, possibly in the history of this event. And they look contenders for a medal. Tim Hutchings, I've already mentioned, in outstanding form with 8 cross-country victories this winter already. Now this very narrow start is predictably leading to problems. A real scramble for places. And the Kenyans either taking a very laid-back attitude at the start here, or perhaps they just want this scramble to sort itself out before they start forcing themselves into the picture. Only 1 Kenyan vest there in amongst the early leaders, but a lot of this race still to go, of course. Feeling that the underfoot conditions and the weather in general in what is an unusually northerly outpost for the World Cross Country Championships won't suit the Kenyans. But as we've seen before, they're happy in just about any conditions. Andrew Masai, who we saw before the start of the race, the early leader here. The firm green fields and the hot and sunny conditions of Auckland in New Zealand a year ago was tailor-made for the Kenyans when they did so well. And I suppose you could say the wintry mud here really ought to suit the Europeans a little more. So the Kenyans might find themselves rather harder pressed than they were a year ago. They actually had 8 men in the first 9 finishes in Auckland in 1988. So Masai leads them through. Tesfaye of Ethiopia in second place. Lovely picture there from the high camera of this massive field of 230 men streaming down the hill. Now what is important in cross-country is that you don't allow anyone to establish a significant lead, because unlike the track where athletes can always see their nearest rival. That's not so, of course, in cross-country, and psychologically, the further behind you get, the more difficult it becomes to catch up, and also the leading runners are able to relax and run more fluently. And that's always so of the Kenyans. Masai still leading the charge for them. Gary Staines of Great Britain in third place now. And looks like one of the Portuguese runners in fourth. Gomez of Spain, I can see there as well, in amongst the leaders. Tesfaye of Ethiopia. And Tim Hutchings of Great Britain has just gone through the picture. Halvarsson of Sweden. Manigeti of Australia, all the yellow vests of Australia together there in a little pack. And different runners choosing different routes to try and avoid the worst of the mud in the middle of the course. And even at this early stage of the race, these runners losing touch with the exceptional speed being set ahead of them. The Kenyans, incidentally, first took part in 1985 in this event when they were second, and since then they've won every team gold medal since they've entered: 1986, 87 and 88. Masai still their best place runner here, and we still await the appearance of John Ngugi amongst the leaders. Tim Hutchings of Great Britain on the left of the picture, still running well in the first four. And Panatta, the little Italian there, all in white, splashing through the mud. A great character, the world steeplechase champion. A gold medal he won in glorious style to an ecstatic reception from the crowd in Rome a couple of years ago. Tough little man. Gary Staines on the right of the picture of Great Britain, all in white, who is not used to cross-country running by any means, also running well. Dave Clark and David Lewis, and then Eamon Martin. So the British really well up there and challenging for a big medal at this stage. Jeff Turnbull and other British runners just gone through as well. So rather surprisingly, the Kenyans as yet not really dominating in the team picture, although Masai is still up there for them as far as the individual places are concerned. Inicio Castro of Portugal, the Portuguese with a very good record in this event. Carlos Lopez, a 3 times winner of the world title. And there's the time, 6 minutes, 7.6 seconds at 2,000 meters. But of course, the time's never really significant in cross-country. Each course completely different from the other, and the weather and all kinds of other factors come into play. So times are not really important. It's all about winning. Tim Hutchings of Great Britain and Gary Staines, they actually train together side by side now with Masai, and then Panatta of Italy just behind them. Hutchings on the left of the picture, taking a totally different route from the other runners. Hutchings actually has had 3 weeks high altitude training in Kenya. He paid for it out of his own pocket to go and train on the slopes of Mount Kenya and get the benefit of high altitude, which by birthright many of the Africans already have. And some fine cross-country runners here already finding the conditions not to their liking. Remember, the men run 5 laps of the course. Canario of Portugal in the green shorts, running alongside Tim Hutchings. Panatta of Italy just behind them, and then Masai of Kenya. Tesfaye of Ethiopia on the left of the picture in the green vest. Gary Staines, the other British runner, doing exceptionally well early on here And we still await the appearance of, there he is, right in the middle of the picture there, John Ngugi, wearing number 140. So he has moved up because he was towards the rear of the field early on. Perhaps he got lost in that early scramble. But Ngugi has now picked his way stealthily towards the front, and that's a sight that will frighten the rest. Masses and masses of bodies. Many of these men know, of course, that an individual medal was never really realistically within their sights. And there's a check on the leaders at 2,500 metres. Masai of Kenya, Ngugi of Kenya has now really moved through into the leading group. And there he is, in fact, now out in front, John Ngugi. And the rest of them must know that once Ngugi has hit the lead, he's going to take some pulling back. David Clark and David Lewis of Great Britain. So the British with a lot of vests up there. They really are doing very well here. But as far as the individual race is concerned, although there's a great deal more of this race to go, as he skips over that little pool of mud, John Ngugi is in ominously good shape. Having said that, he only came 7th in the Kenyan Championships 3 weeks ago. But his form does tend to fluctuate rather strangely. I remember about 3 years ago he was as low as 76th in the Kenyan National Championships, and then a couple of weeks later he took part in the world event in Warsaw and promptly won a gold medal. So I think you can discount any suggestions that he's below form. That long raking stride, certainly not as stylish, John Ngugi. Tim Hutchings now in 2nd, Masai of Kenya clear in 3rd, Canario of Portugal in 4th, Gary Staines of Britain in 5th. And looking at the team positions as Ngugi now begins to stretch away, and there's confirmation of his incredible achievements. World champion 87 and 88 and 86, not shown on that caption, and Olympic gold medalist over 5,000 metres in Seoul. But the team situation really does look fascinating. The Kenyans, not surprisingly, are leading at the moment. Then Great Britain in 2nd place, ahead of the French and Ethiopia. Ethiopia who have a marvellous record with 5 successive victories before the Kenyans came on the scene. And there's the time at 5,000 metres. Panetta of Italy still hanging on in there, the world champion steeplechaser. Tesfaye of Ethiopia just behind him. And then Gary Staines of Great Britain. And yet another of the Kenyans, that was Masai. Kip Kemboi is in the next group following as well. And yet another Kenyan vest goes through. That looks like Moses Tanui. So a quick calculation means that I've seen at least 4 or 5 of the Kenyans go through in the leading 10 or 12. Ngugi now in the lead then. Kirochi has moved up to join him. Hutchings of Britain 3rd. Panetta still in 4th. And Tesfaye of Ethiopia now 5th. And then just look at those other Kenyan names, Masai and Tanui. Canario of Portugal dropping back. At 26 years old, John Ngugi, running in a style that one critic rather unkindly but perhaps accurately referred to as looking a little bit like Groucho Marx, with that loping, rather ugly running style. But what does it matter when you can run as strongly and as well as he can? A member of the Kikuyu tribe. He lives in Munga, a little village in North Nairobi, 5,000 feet above sea level. And unlike many of the great Kenyan athletes, has never been tempted to join a United States college. He prefers to remain in his homeland, trains 3 times a day and absolutely laps it up. He loves running. Kirochi now has clearly moved into 2nd place. Wilfred Kirochi and Tim Hutchings of Britain 3rd. And then quite a gap back to Canario, the Portuguese runner, seemed to have a bit of a problem in the last half a mile or so. He's clutching his side and may have suffered a stitch, which has hit his hopes. Manighetti of Australia running well just a little bit further back, I noticed. But the crowd responding to the sight of the 3 times winner, John Ngugi. And Kirochi of Kenya now getting away from Tim Hutchings. So the British athlete who was runner-up in the 1984 championships in America will have to dig in hard to emulate that particular feat. At least he's got ahead of Canario in 4th, and then Tesfaye of Ethiopia was 5th. Coming up to 19 minutes elapsed in the race, and John Ngugi, one of the greatest ever cross-country runners. He won by a massive margin of 22 seconds last year. Now, let's see how far ahead he is at this point. The clock on the left, which has just started, shows the gap between him and his teammate Kirochi at the 6,000 meter point, or in other words, midway through the race. Well, it looked to be about 18, 19 seconds. And then Kirochi himself 5 or 6 seconds up on Tim Hutchings of Britain. Then it's Canario of Portugal. Then Tanui of Kenya. Tesfaye of Ethiopia. Panetta just holding his side there. And a fine run by Halvorsen, the Norwegian. Manighetti of Australia. Gary Staines of Great Britain. Dave Clark of Great Britain. Lustum, the Frenchman. More Ethiopian vests, and then a whole phalanx of French runners. So at midway, John Ngugi and Kirochi, the 2 Kenyans, out in front from Hutchings of Great Britain. And there's confirmation of the places behind them, with a lot of Kenyans. But John Ngugi seems on his way to a 4th successive victory. An astonishing achievement. Since this event really became a true World Championships, a trio of men have managed to win 2 in a row. John Tracy of Ireland, Craig Virgin of the United States, and Carlos Lopez of Portugal. Lopez actually won 3 gold medals in all, not successively. No one had ever won 3 in a row until Ngugi did it in 1988, and obviously, therefore, no one's ever won 4 in a row. That really would be an astonishing achievement. Kirochi in 2nd now. Hutchings is 3rd, and Canario of Portugal perhaps catching him a little. Then Tesfaye of Ethiopia 5th. Then Masai and Kipkemboi. Panetta holding his side again. The Italian obviously in a little bit of pain here. And another Kenyan closing on him. But back out at the head of the race, John Ngugi with a very, very big lead. His Olympic success in the 5,000 metres was really one of the most astonishing performances I've ever seen on the track. At that level, he just ran away from the rest very early on in the race, caught them all out, and went on to win in the bravest fashion. A man who scorns tactics, simply loves running, and you can see it in his whole approach. The camera perhaps foreshortening the true distance between him and Hutchings in 2nd, and then Canario in 3rd, then Tesfaye of Ethiopia 4th, Tanui is 5th, Kipkemboi is 6th, Panetta just losing out for 7th place. Manighetti of Australia still running well. Now coming into the picture, David Clark of Great Britain, a 3-time British champion. Then Gary Staines, and the inevitable crop of red Kenyan vests. The French running well here in the team position. And we can see what a big gap now there is from Ngugi back to, well, it's Canario now, so there's been a change there, really, as they came down the hill. And yes, Tim Hutchings is back in 3rd, And Kirochi has dropped back. So it just shows you really in cross country anything can happen quickly, but I doubt that anything's going to happen quickly or otherwise to John Ngugi skipping through the mud there. I remember once seeing him when he first came on the scene and won a big junior race. It was a day almost as heavy as this underfoot, and he actually ran barefooted. He slipped and slithered all over the place, but still won by a massive margin. And look now, we can't even see the man in second place yet. Well, it's Kirochi's forced himself back into the picture again, and Canario's really seesawing. He's been second and then back to fourth, now back to third again. So Kirochi moving through into the silver medal position. Canario of Portugal is third. Hutchings of Great Britain is fourth. Then Tesfaye of Ethiopia is fifth. He's been consistently placed right from the start of this race. Tanui of Kenya sixth. Kipkemboi Kenya seventh. Monighetti now, the blonde-haired Australian, eighth. And still Halvorsen of Norway, number 166 there, running very well. And Ngugi doesn't even need the luxury of looking over his shoulder now to see where the others are. Now Hutchings is back into the silver medal position, but running virtually alongside Kirochi here. Tim Hutchings, a European bronze medalist, and indeed a Commonwealth bronze medalist on the track over 5,000 meters, and just missed out on a bronze medal in the 1984 Olympic Games in Los Angeles, where he was fourth. And Panetta, again, the Italian, still clutching his side. I recall him doing that in the Olympics. So there's the standings, and Ngugi and Kirochi, the Kenyans, still with a stranglehold on those leading places. But as you saw there, Tim Hutchings now threatening to move into second place, and looking back down this long straight, Hutchings is just about ahead of Kirochi. But the bell has sounded for the final lap. And John Ngugi on his way to victory, surely. But there's going to be a real battle for the medals behind him. As we look again, Kirochi on the right, all in red, just ahead of Hutchings, as Ngugi goes on his own individual way. Hutchings slipping and sliding then, but the British athlete professes to like running in heavy mud, so he'll be enjoying it. John Ngugi, like so many of the Africans, running really in his blood. He used to run to school every day, and it wasn't just down the road, it was 6 miles to school and 6 miles back home again. So running very much of second nature to him. Tim Hutchings from the south of England. A man with a fine track pedigree, as I was mentioning. But his cross-country performances this winter have earmarked him arguably as Europe's best. And behind him as well, the British team continuing to do well. I've got them in second place now, behind the Kenyans. Although the Ethiopians are in strong contention as well. There's the clock on the left again, running to show the gap between Ngugi and the second man, and it seems to have grown. Well, Hutchings has got himself yet again in front of Kirochi. And when they cross the white line in the foreground of the picture here, we'll have an idea of Ngugi's lead. And there it is, over 30 seconds, something like 32, 33 seconds. Monighetti of Australia now right on the shoulder of the Ethiopian Tesfaye. And behind him, Masai of Kenya. And Kipkemboi. Halvorsen, the Norwegian, to the delight of the Stavanger crowd here, still running very, very well. He's been in the first 12, really, from virtually the start of the race. Here's Panetta of Italy. The Stum, the Frenchman, in the blue shorts. Akili of Ethiopia, and then two British runners together, Staines and Clark. And Mockery, another British runner as well, so they really are pushing hard for a team medal. And this, the heaviest part of the course, but it's not going to bother John Ngugi at this point. Has proved to be unpredictable over the years, Ngugi. When you are expecting him to run well, he doesn't necessarily do so. But look at this now. This is astonishing because he's actually overtaking and therefore lapping some of those runners at the rear of the field. And in a championship of this status, on a course of this nature, that really is unbelievable. But Tim Hutchings, going very strongly through this muddy section, has got himself in front of Kirochi again. So it's Hutchings of Britain second. Kirochi of Kenya now is third. Tesfaye of Ethiopia fourth. And then it's Moneghetti, the blonde-haired Australian, in fifth. Masai, Kenya sixth. Kip Kemboi, Kenya seventh. And Ngugi can afford to slow and relax as he approaches this downhill sweep. Kenyan camp, incidentally, before the championships here, was set back by allegations of fraud amongst their officials, stories that several of their top athletes had been denied payments that were due them, and obviously that's caused a lot of consternation in their camp and unsettled them, but you'd hardly believe it from the way they're running here. Just seeing Hutchings, who is in the second position at the moment, going through the camera, and there is Kirochi now in third, Moneghetti fourth, Tesfaye fifth, Masai is sixth, and the Spaniard who we haven't mentioned yet, Alejandro Gomez. But with less than 500 meters to go now, John Ngugi is going to write yet another chapter in the remarkable story of the man who is surely and now unarguably the greatest cross-country runner the world has ever seen. Tim Hutchings has run the race of his life, because really a lot of men must have started this race by thinking that a silver medal would be the most they could achieve. And Ngugi, with 3 successive titles behind him, was always going to be the favourite. So second place, in a manner of speaking, was going to be victory for whoever could secure it. And it looks like Tim Hutchings of Great Britain has got it now. That runner just coming through there is being lapped. And Kirochi now clear in third, with Moneghetti in fourth. But it's the finishing straight for the incredible John Ngugi, the Olympic 5,000 metres champion, who says he will move up to 10,000 metres on the track this summer, and heaven knows what he'll be capable of over that distance. He's run through 12,000 metres on an undulating and muddy course that couldn't have been to his liking at all. He would have preferred firm going, but he's got on with it. He's run superbly well, and he's decimated world-class opposition yet again. An unprecedented 4th successive world title for the great John Ngugi of Kenya. And in second place, Tim Hutchings of Great Britain repeats his achievement of 5 years ago in New Jersey in the United States, because he is now well clear, and indeed, looking at the clock at the bottom there, he's actually managed to reduce the gap between himself and Ngugi on that final loop of the course. A great silver medal for Tim Hutchings of Great Britain, his second in these World Championships. Kirochi of Kenya will take third. Moneghetti of Australia holds on to fourth. Tesfaye of Ethiopia will be fifth. And then Gomez, the Spaniard, has run well for 6th place. That's a surprise. Then 2 Kenyans, Masai and Kip Kemboi, and another Kenyan, and that means for sure they have got the team prize again. Tanui, the next to finish in 9th place. A lot of home support for Halvorsen of Norway in the white vest there, 10th. the Stum, the Frenchman, 11th. Then we see Panetta of Italy coming through. Bakili of Ethiopia next. Gary Staines of Great Britain. So that's a fine run by him. And right behind him is Dave Clark of Britain. And that will mean, by my calculations, that Great Britain get the team silver. So the results in the individual and the team mirrored by the fact that a Kenyan won the individual gold and they are certain to win the team gold. A Britain won the individual silver and they are certain to win the team silver. Kiptum, another Kenyan just finishing, then the Italian Bettiol in the white vest, Espacia of Spain, and then a couple of the Americans finishing in close contention. But let us salute the great John Ngugi of Kenya, winner of the IAAF World Cross Country Championship for an incredible 4th year in succession. Tim Hutchings of Great Britain, the silver. Kirochi of Kenya, the bronze medal. What a fine run by Manigeti of Australia, a surprise 4th place ahead of Tesfaye of Ethiopia. Well, there's the next 5 finishers, but the position in the team event was that Kenya won the gold medal once again, their 4th gold medal in succession. Great Britain and Northern Ireland were in 2nd place ahead of Ethiopia, who were 3rd. Another outstanding World Championships. We hope you enjoyed our coverage from Norway. Goodbye.